Here.
Okay, hold. Let me agree. Okay. Katrina Fuller, parent, also secretary. Molly Campbell, staff member.
Present.
Ann Gabbard, staff. Oh, I don't think she's on the call either.
Yeah, she might not be on here.
Ellie Bookman, community member.
Present.
Ann Wetter, community member.
Here.
Katie Zabrowski, are you as a community member?
Here. Swing seat.
Yeah. I have you as a swing seat, yes. Ms. Briscoe and everyone that is today on the call, they are just part of the public, so I don't call roll, correct?
So in case you're wondering who these additional people are, they are our newly elected board members. And I was going to try to wait so that they could see how the meeting works. It's kind of like a formal, Robert's Rules of Orders type of thing. But if we want to go out of order, we can certainly do that and give them a moment to introduce themselves. We also have 2 new staff members. This is an optional meeting, and so you certainly don't have to stay. But you're welcome to, as is the public. So go ahead, knock yourself out. One of them, I bet you, I'm looking. If there were no walls or doors, we'd be actually looking at each other right now. And I didn't even know he was running until I saw his name. Go ahead. You want to start?
Yeah, hey everybody. This is Paul Robertson. I'm lucky to be close to Mary Lynn. I like walking to school. I like seeing Miss Briscoe when she's out and about. And I've got a kindergartner, going to be a first grader very soon. I've got another almost 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. So we're going to be at Mary Lynn for a while.
3 girls.
And I grew up with a mother who was very active at my elementary school through high school. So, I want to kind of carry on that tradition of being involved and helping any way I can. And I don't really know exactly what goes on with the Go team still. So I'm looking forward to learning more about it.
I appreciate that so much. Welcome.
Thank you.
You could have told me that you were going to do it, though. I didn't know.
I didn't even, like I say, I didn't even know what I got myself into.
Yeah, it's great. You're going to love it. Okay.
So does that mean that I'm up? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. So I apologize for a couple things in advance. First of all, that I cannot figure out how to get my camera to work on my cell phone. Which you'd think all this time on Zoom, I could figure that out. But also if you hear baseball noises in the background, it's because I am sitting here watching a baseball game.
Well, thank you for taking the time, because this is very optional, but I'm glad that you're here.
No, I'm excited to be here. So Allison Thompson, I know a couple of you, but not everyone. So nice to, I guess, sort of meet those that I don't know. I sort of volunteered myself, I guess, threw my hat in the ring for this for a couple of reasons. First, because I'm a lawyer, first of all, so any kind of procedural things, appeal to me, I think, by nature. But until a little over a year ago, I was just swamped with being a lawyer. So didn't have time to do a lot of things like, volunteer for Go Team. But even during that prior career and now having transitioned, I'm now one of the in-house lawyers at Boys and Girls Clubs of America. Have been very focused on, any and all issues related to children, and in particular young children. So both my free time and my sort of passion aligned, and decided I wanted to give it a go, similar to my co-electee.
Well, that is
and been looking forward to seeing how it
glad
goes.
you freed up. I got your time freed up. Tell everybody about your kids.
Oh, right. I have 2 of them. And again, I think those of you on the call that I know one or both of them. So I have a son in 5th grade about to go on to Howard, and my daughter is in 3rd grade, although this is her first year at Mary Lynn because she spent her kindergarten and 1st grade years at the children's school, and then decided she really, really, really wanted to go to Mary Lynn just in time for the world to shut down. So she spent her first year at Mary Lynn last year fully virtual and has been super excited to be part of the school. She's in class with Anne's daughter. She plays softball with Patricia's daughter. So
Yeah, with Sophia.
and my son Brody has known Henry since I think kindergarten.
For sure. I'm glad
Excellent.
that they'll be at Howard together.
So I'm glad that your daughter is, we finally made it right for her. Yeah. Okay.
She's had a really great year. She was super sad to leave. To lose her wonderful teacher, but she.
Miss Kemp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's going to have another awesome one next year. Okay, so go ahead, Patricia. With that,
Okay.
we were just doing roll, and you were asking about who should you call the other people's names. We do have also a member of the public that we also welcome. I
Okay.
just one mom.
All right, so we have a quorum. And the first item in our agenda is to approve the agenda that was sent to us last week. And for that, I will need a motion to approve the agenda.
This is a motion. I second.
Can
Ann
you say
Weider,
your
second.
name? Can you say your name?
Ann Weider was the second.
Emily was the first.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. All right. All right, so the previous agenda has been approved. All right, so the next item is the approval of the minutes, previous minutes. The minutes. And I need a motion to approve the minutes as well.
Can everyone see the minutes?
We see the top of it, so you would need to scroll down. So what we see right now was the the roll call.
Right, and these were emailed out as well.
Correct.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. Ellie.
All right. So the previous minutes have been approved. All right, our next item in our agenda is public comment.
Public comment. Do you have any comments or questions that you'd like to ask before we begin with our agenda?
I raised my hand. I'm Michelle Krotheimer. Thanks for having me on. I don't know if I should be live streaming, but I'm joining the Zoom because I did have a question for you all. I see there's another open comment period later in this session, and my question pertains to the rezoning conversation happening with APS right now. So would it be best for me to pipe in with a question after that conversation?
That would be great. Yes, I think so. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so our discussion items are spring access review.
Okay, so this is, do I have screen sharing rights? Katrina? I think it's Katrina.
Yes.
Yes, you should have them.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you, we've talked about this a few times, what ACES is. Are you able to see my ACES presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. So just want to just give you an overview of what this is. So this is the time when each principal in the district stands before the superintendent and the chief of schools, chief academic officer, our associate superintendent, and then a few people that work in various departments. And it's a timed interview, so to speak, or you're like your chance to explain what it is that you're doing. And then there's a question and answer period, and then they give feedback. It's the first time that we've done this. It's part of the Office of Innovation. And we have done similar things in the past, but it's a protocol, so it's pretty tight. Diane's probably come to 50 of them. How many have you seen, Diane? All of them?
Not quite all of them, but I did observe most of
Yeah,
them.
so it's like you have like 5 minutes to talk, you're on a timer. Anyway, they give you these predetermined slides for you to fill out, similar to what happens at the Go team. So at the time I presented, we had 0 vacancies, which is great to have during the middle of the year, or when I did the presentation, but that was before contracts were coming out. And so that has changed, and we have had quite a few vacancies, which most of which we filled. It gives you your projected enrollment for the next school year and what that means in terms of the budget change, and then just some basics about our student population. Notably having a really high gifted population. I don't know if you guys saw that, at 31%, which is well above the district average. And then the next slide talks about your attendance. The take rate means how, do your teachers take their attendance every day and on time, right? So we have really high take rate. They remember, and if they don't remember, we call their room, they hear the little boo, and they're like, oh, I forgot my attendance. But we want to keep our take rate high. It's very different in middle and high school because they have to take attendance for every period. So it's a little easier in elementary school. The ADA attendance rate is about how many students are coming to school. With consistency, with not being considered chronically absent. And that is part of our CCRPI attendance rate. So that is a moving target, that number, because there's 180 days of school. So if you miss the first 2 weeks of school, or and then you have 10 absences, it's going to take you however many weeks to make that be under the threshold of 90%, right? Because as time goes by and you're not absent, then that number gets bigger. So we're hoping that we have at least over 95% not chronically absent. Most of our attendance this year has been because of COVID, and also because we are continue to take vacations during school time. So that's something that we really struggle with, trying to make sure that our families schedule their vacations during time that school's out. All right. Then this is the third slide that they ask for, that they have asked for, and what it is a grid of the results of the MAP assessments that the students take 3 times a year. This is just a scatter plot for growth. And so you can look at the quadrants. So really what you want to do is be above the line. This is not performance, this is growth. For performance, you want to be to the right of the cross, right? That's super high achievement. And growth is going up and down. Does anybody have any questions about that? In fact, let me just show you where we are in terms of, maybe just move to, hold on 1 second. Okay, so for this this slide right here talks to you about how we're doing. So you can see that as far as ELA is concerned, you can see this, what I did is just share pieces of information from that particular slide mostly. So you see that the 54% of our students are in the distinguished category for ELA, and that is an achievement goal. Then we talk about our African-American students, and what it doesn't have is one of them is a glow, and one of them is a grow. Okay, so we're looking for things that are working well for us. Oops, sorry, and things that we need to work on. Again, this is a presentation of our academic indicators. Look what is happening at Maryland. And then the right column is the strategies. Why is that happening? Or why do we think that's happening?
Can I ask, so these map results are the ones they just took, right?
No, those are the ones they took before that. We haven't gotten a new, we've only done ACEs twice. I'm going to assume, I really don't know. Again, this is like our first year doing it in this format. So maybe Diane may be able to speak a little bit better to what the expectation is for the next time. Will it be in the very beginning of the year before new scores come out to discuss these spring scores, or?
I'm afraid I don't know. That's Dr. Maxwell's. I know that next year they're planning 2 ACEs reviews instead of the 3 that were this year.
No, we only did 2 this year.
Okay.
Yep. I did 2. I don't know if there was one that when I wasn't there. We did some practicing.
Okay, then that's
Very
maybe why they
beginning.
had the.
In the very beginning, but in terms of presenting to the team at CLL, we only did it twice.
Okay. But no, that would be, you'd have to reach out to Dr. Maxwell to find out what the plan is for next year.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to share that information when I find out. I just don't know. And to be honest, I don't know if they know if they're, what are we going to look at? Because we could meet in the beginning of the year and discuss our spring scores as well as our milestone scores, which also haven't come back yet. Or we could also, they could look at the scores that we take in the fall when we return, and we call fall, but it's summer, it'll be in the month of August, so.
But do we know, like from the spring map, not on ACEs, I mean, do we know if this number kind of held or
yes. Also, yes, we do. So Atlanta Public Schools is really great at sharing data, and you can look at it on Insights. I think that Insights might show you some of those. We look at it on APS Graphs as a school, so teachers and staff members have access to that, where I don't know how in depth they go for the public on these scores, because some of it is sensitive. Like if you click it, it might show teachers' names. It'll drill down further. So I don't know the level view, but I can totally find that out and share at the parent view what you can see, unless Diane knows the answer. Okay. These are things that are, these are given to me. So when they come, we show what we have. So for us as a school, we just track our own data ourselves to find out how we're doing, and then we're able to share. But the district is really, really good at providing this very detailed level of information that keeps us from having to take the calculator out and start figuring out in, this class, this person, how many kids have achieved their growth goal, and they also measure against the other schools in the district, so we can see things like that. They do it by cluster, at various levels. All right, I'm going to go to the next slide. No, I'm having a block. Okay, so they ask about what has really helped us with our progress this year. And I think that in the very beginning of the year, when we shared this, our teachers had a lot to learn. We were in a learning curve. We were coming back from COVID, and we had a new math program, Bridges. We had a new phonics program, Foundations. Those, that was mandatory, as well as several different interventions for our intervention block. And then for the rest of the year, we wanted to focus on emotional health and well-being through planned activities that bring joy. And you all know that we have really tried to focus on that, and in addition to our subgroup and achievement growth. So I don't know, I just had a parent drive by. I was on my porch and to say what a great time they had at the kindergarten blast off today. And, that was great. We're really trying to, bring a good sense of community back. Anyone who went to the band and orchestra concerts could also attest to just what a great, and chorus outside, we've really been just trying to focus on the whole child for the remainder of the year, because this was so late when we presented. And then we want to do a goal setting training from MAP. MAP provides students their scores so that we can have individual conferences with students and share with them how they're progressing. But there are certain questions and ways to present the information that comes directly from MAP. And it really helps with growth because it helps students take ownership of their growth. They want to see the needle move themselves. Our MAP training was canceled. We did reschedule. It was also canceled. It is the top priority for the beginning of the next school year. It was scheduled for the planning day when we returned to school in January, and then we ended up staying home a week because of the rise of COVID. And then it was rescheduled again for the planning day in March that we thought we had autonomy to do our own training that day. And it was district-wide professional learning that we had to take, and it was non-negotiable. Okay. And then they asked very specifically about our interventions. They want to know literally, these are the interventions that we use and how many minutes a day and how many days a week that's happening. So that information is tracked at the district level. They purchase subscriptions to these. And then I don't have my glasses on. So, and I need to go get them. Let me see, oh, you know what? I have to make it bigger. Is that terrible? Because I literally can't see that. It is asking about the subgroups and how each of our subgroups did in determining their growth met, and it lets you know the number of students and did they meet their growth target or growth goal. So, you have low growth, you have average growth, low average, average, high average, and then you have high growth. So that is the ACES presentation. And the feedback is really, let me stop sharing.
Principal Briscoe, sorry to make you share again, but could you go back to the slide that talk about the school suspension rate? I'd like to see that one. It was because it was broken down into the different categories, I think, right?
Yes. Let me say.
I think it was like, it was near the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Let me show it big. Mhm. Basically, we have hardly any suspensions. We have 0.02 suspension.
And when that's like,
We have 0.01 suspensions overall. Mhm.
and so when that's like a half rate, is that like a half day or something like that? What does that mean?
That means the students that has been suspended from school are had in-school suspension. And so they look at the number of students you have and the number of days of the year. And we have 0.01 student suspension. We don't suspend kids, this is the bottom line. Very often, we have very egregious, if there's unprovoked violence, we follow the Atlanta Public Schools Code of Conduct handbook, right? Our students, knock on wood, they strive to be model rockets. And so they don't, they exhibit really good and positive behavior, 99% of the time. But there are instances, the reason why the number is not zero is because there are instances when students do get suspended. So we've probably suspended students. I don't know the actual number of, I could tell you the actual number of suspensions that we've had through the year, but I would say of 640 something kids at 160 days of school, we've probably had a total, of 10 or less kids that have been suspended for, a few days. Not, we don't have, our data does not look like other schools in middle and high schools. It's just very different data. So it's a data point that to be captured, and most of it is because we want to discuss disproportionality. Want to make sure that we're not just suspending Black boys, for example, at a higher rate than white girls based on, bias or, are we harder on one particular group than another? We want to make sure that we're not suspending students who are in special ed at a higher rate, so that's one of the reasons why we track suspension data. But, from, as you can see, suspension is not a problem at Maryland.
This is Emily. Can we go back to the growth rate slide real quick?
That one?
No, I guess broken down by percentages at the end. And is the growth rate target, the rate the same for all kids, or is it like higher for some subgroups?
Well, you can see like for how it is for males, how it is for females. SWD means students with disabilities, Black, Hispanic, Asian, white.
No, I understand, but the target growth rate, like.
Oh
to get
yeah,
this-
this is yes. It's
Okay.
same for all. Yes, it's we want students to grow as much as possible. That's
So what do you think about some of these? I know that the subgroups are so small that the data is kind of whacked, but
yeah, the subgroups are so small. That's absolutely right. So you can look and see the actual. Well, this is just the feedback slide, but there's another slide that shows your actual the number of students who qualify in the APS graphs, the number of students. So we have 44 Black students in grades 2 through 5. And so that's the data that we look at, so we're talking about 44 children spread out over 4 grades.
no, I get that. So
5
I'm not
grades.
going to talk about the subgroups.
Okay.
The bigger, like the male and female, is that a normal rate to have hovering between 35 and 40% not hitting that target? Or do you attribute that to coming back from COVID, or what are your thoughts on that?
So They also, APS Graphs also breaks down the data by subgroup and of male to female. And we look at it in each grade level because, you know, we've made assumptions like maybe the boys are being outperformed in language arts because they're not interested in the books or whatever. Like the girls maybe outperformed in math and science because of the stereotyping and, you know, that kind of thing. And our students hover equally. You know, there's not a big discrepancy in how boys perform and how girls perform. Now, in terms of like why some students meet growth goals and some students don't, I think it varies very specifically by how the student is being met, you know, and how challenged they are. And that's really what our goal at Mary Lynn is to challenge the kids where they are, because, you know, I could have, say I have 2 second graders. One is reading on a first grade level, and one's reading on a fourth grade level. They're taking the same assessment. But the assessment is adaptive. So the one reading on the fourth grade level is going to keep getting harder and harder and harder questions. So their growth is measured by when you have a baseline data, and this is for the milestones. I don't know how the map growth data is measured, but by the milestones, what will happen is I will take all the students that are performing at the fourth grade level and how did my child compare against those students versus all the children that are scoring similarly to those in the first grade level. So if you've grown, that means I'm against my typical peers, I've grown this much, because there's always an argument that it's hard to grow kids that already come in achieving here. So how do you measure the difference between growth and achievement, which is, you know, how well you do, versus growth, which is how far you've come. So you can start here, but are you going to be stagnant or are you going to continue to move? And that is a direct relationship to the answer to the question, is why I think so. I think it's a direct relationship to how challenged students are by their, you know, by what their curriculum, and their teacher, by what's happening. But, you know, I also want to state that it is a snapshot. It's one day. It's an assessment that captures one day. So, you know, one of the reasons why growth is so important is because you take schools that don't have affluence and schools that have, you know, a variety of other challenges that Mary Lynn might not have. And would you consider them a successful school or a low performing school? They may have started here, but they grew the students so much. They might not have hit that achievement goal yet, but they've grown so much that they know that whatever they're doing is working. So that's
I get that. That's why it's so important to have at a school like Mary Lynn, maybe to have such a robust gifted program.
Yeah.
If your kids are already, you know, achieving at such a high rate. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things, so I'm glad that you brought that up. So that's one of the things that we talk about with our gifted teachers and our gifted program is that how much of a relationship do we want to have to the Georgia's performance standards versus like completely different topics, because ungifted classes focus on, you know, units of study that are just completely off the path of the standards for the Georgia performance standards, but they may be of high interest, you know, like they might want to study Egypt or something like that. And that's not in their ancient Egypt, that's not in their curriculum. So there's, you know, that debate between whether or not you introduce them to new topics and give them the same skills to try to master, or do you just dive deeper into the current curriculums they already have, you know? And so we're trying to strike the right balance, you know, to keep the kids engaged and to feed their gifted minds, which is why they qualified, you know, for gifted services in the first place.
Yeah, I have some ideas on that. We can talk at another time on that.
Sure.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yes, I'd love to hear them.
So, so this is from fall to winter. So when we look at the spring And if we still see a 44%, 43% not meeting target or growth, is that something then we are concerned with, or are we just thinking this is kind of where we're going to hover?
Well, I mean, we strive for every student. Let me assure you that no teacher wants to be the one to say, your kid did really great this year. They achieved at this level, but they didn't grow. So, and no teacher wants that for their kid, for any of their students. But what we have to do is, just continue to look at it and set goals. That's why when I was saying about having the MAP growth goal training, I want the teachers to also include the kids in the conversation so they can help set goals for themselves. Similar to like AR, you do like different, get to the different levels of the next phase in the game when you're playing a video game. It's similar to that, can I get to the next level of, what I'm working on? So, we just constantly look at the data, and it is measured higher. Growth is measured higher than achievement on the CCRPI. And so I think growth, the last time we took it was 35%, while achievement was 30%, where it used to be achievement was it. So schools that had high performing students would always look like they did great, but did you grow your kids? So it is absolutely in the forefront of our minds. We want to make sure that we're growing while achieving. That's the goal. Get everybody in the top right quadrant.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's ACEs. What's next?
All right. For our information items, the first thing is the Midtown Cluster Signature Program update.
Well, the Midtown Cluster is officially going to be a STEM cluster. And Emily, I'm trying to, I don't have like an actual announcement on that. Did you have that? Did you get that? Something like that? I just know that we started talking about it one day and it was it. We've been talking about it for a very long time now. Don't let me say we just started talking about it one day and that was it. We've been talking about it for a very long time, and all of the principals in the cluster did endorse that. I just don't recall there being an official announcement.
No, I don't either.
Diane,
It was something to edit, to send out, and then I assume that it was sent out, and the two of us just didn't register that.
Yeah.
Sort of anticlimactic, but
yeah, kind of anticlimactic. But one of our schools has been like, squirreling away the data, getting themselves prepared. And when they reached out to Cognia to discuss certification and they talked about the things that they had done, they were like, you're ready. And so, we're on it. We have some team members that are dedicated to getting STEM certified. And we're going to first look at STEM, and then we're going to add the A for STEAM, because the arts are really important, particularly in our community. Maryland community loves the arts. So we're going to make sure that we keep going with that. So that's the update. We're STEM official. Okay, here is the update on Midtown Summer Academy at Spark. It's going on the month of June. And any student that wants to attend is welcome to attend. June 6th through 30th, I think are the weeks, or it's June 6th through July 1st. Or maybe it's the 30th and they have one day to clean up. But there will be transportation provided. All of the schools in the elementary schools in the Midtown cluster are invited, and registration is open. I think that I don't know the cutoff. Katie, do you know the cutoff for that?
No? Okay. But all students.
I
were-
don't, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. All schools were invited to that. And I'm happy to report that our very own Denise Brinkslid will be running it. All right.
And it starts June 1st, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, June 1st. Okay. I'm sorry. You're right.
Are there many Mary Lynn teachers going to be there?
I'm thinking June 6th because of the kindergarten camp. There are a few Maryland staff. There's, I think a lot of our teachers are really ready to get themselves a break as well. But Ms. Brinkslid and the other administrators have selected a staff, that is a part of all, not only just the 4 schools that are feeding in, but some other schools in the district as well. And so I don't have the roster, so I don't know how many people.
I will be there.
You teaching summer school?
Yeah, I'm gonna be one of the coaches. I'll
You
be
better- Oh, that's
big
gonna be
coach.
such good practice, Mr. Rico. You ready to be a coach? Let's go. Let's do it.
I'll tell you how it goes. But yeah, I'm
That'll be
excited.
excellent. Good for you. Okay. All right. I know, I don't know if Mr. Rico's your meeting. I just went right on to the next one, announcement.
Yeah, in the announcements.
Well, I know that we have a parent that's here and that wants to discuss the Inman building, and I don't have really any announcements to make for that. I can certainly give some updates. It's all public knowledge at this point that the district has selected to do a K-5 school. And the most recent board meeting, there was some feedback that was shared to the district that the maps had shifted slightly. And so they have added some additional dates for community feedback and opinion. I can tell you the timeline of events from my seat in terms of what, our stance at Mary Lynn is that in our last meeting, as you all recall, Diane took down a statement from each individual person, and we were able to share that with the district. That's something that they asked for us to give. And so the GO team did make an official statement that 100% of the team felt that Inman Park neighborhood should stay a part of Mary Lynn, and we didn't really feel comfortable with taking our students and moving them to another school because that school had taken students and moved it to another school. But we also talked about, we're looking at it from our perspective, and then there's, the perspective at the higher level from the district. There's also been a statement made by the Inman Park Neighborhood Association Education Committee. And what they shared with Atlanta Public Schools is that they were going to be, they're neutral. They're fine with either scenario, one being to keep, to do a K-5, and scenario 2 being to have a Spark dual campus. But I've also had a few Inman Park parents reach out and say that they disagree with the IPNA statement. But again, that's something that would need to go to Let's Talk, or, the direct ears of Atlanta Public Schools or your board members. So we shared that a couple of times. The reason why we ended up doing a little survey is because after that statement was made and there was a conversation about what was going to happen, and the notion of 2 scenarios came out, all of us were reached out to by Springdale Park. I think everybody got an email from Springdale Park parents, is that correct? Asking, would we be willing to, speak on, to say something on Springdale Park's behalf. We join with them to advocate for a dual campus. And that's when the PTA said, you know, we don't know if we are even able to do that because we don't know. Nobody has really been vocal about it and saying what it is that they think. Everybody's had the opportunity to individually share that. And so our one body, being the GO team, did do that, but the PTA had not. So they did reach out just to get a survey. And 75% of our population said that they prefer for Inman Park to stay at Maryland as well. So that's where we are. They've added a couple of more engagement dates. And then after that, they'll take it to the board for the second read. And I think the voting will be either in July or August of next year.
What was the response rate to that survey?
Like how many people responded? I think it was about 50% of the school, of the student population. So maybe, I think it was like 260 or 70 responses.
Regarding that survey, who crafted it? Which organization? Was that school
PTA.
or
PTA?
PTA, okay. I do like that APS did address, I think, a few of our concerns regarding the grandfathering.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I appreciate that.
Okay. So with that, Mr. Rico, I'm gonna just take the liberty to say public comment.
If I may hop in as a public commenter. Thanks, first and foremost, thanks for everything that you do. Like, I'm very grateful. My question is around the rezoning conversation. We have, me and a number of parents as individuals in the Maryland community have been gathering over the last couple of weeks to figure out how we can best have our voices heard. I know, Ms. Briscoe, you did mention that you've heard from a number of parents within Inman Park who are not pleased with the potential rezoning decision that's on the table. And that is absolutely what I'm hearing from many folks in that neighborhood. And so we want to do our best to engage within the decision-making process. So that's not the story that's being heard, because the results of the PTA survey would indicate more than 78% of families who responded wants to keep Maryland intact as it is today. And
yes,
I have immense concerns about the shrinking of the school and what that could have as to an impact on the school and academics, et cetera. So with your professional experience and perspective, like how as individual parents or as groups of parents not affiliated with the PTA, not affiliated with the GO team, can we best make our voices heard, and maybe even how we frame the conversation? You know, I don't have the background in public education policy, but I do know I'm very concerned about Maryland shrinking by, close to 40%.
Sure.
So yeah, up to Len there. We plan to attend the community engagement sessions. It's more about how we tell our story.
Yes. So I was going to say, I know that we're a little late to the table, and I think it partly is because people didn't really actually realize how it was going to affect us until these numbers came out, and it was like, oh my goodness, we're going to be at 60% capacity, and and all of these things. But it's absolutely to make your opinion known. So Maryland has been relatively quiet. There's letter writing that you can do to both your board member and also your let's talk, which goes directly to the superintendent. So instead of doing, you could also do the office of the superintendent. Those are the two. The superintendent's office is the person who is making the recommendation, and the board is the person that accepts and votes on the recommendation. So you can say at both ends, we hate it, stop, don't do it. This is what we don't want. But my advice is to, when we speak from a place of emotion, I mean, it is true. Nobody wants to move. We have a problem. There's a problem. It has to be solved. The schools in the Midtown cluster are overcrowded. Mary Lynn may not, from our perspective, we're not a part of it, right? We're fine just the way we are. And that was the argument that the GO team made. If we're good, if you could leave us alone in one scenario, no, can you leave us alone in the other scenario? Well, from the district perspective, they look at it at a higher level than we do. And so I think it's really important to just speak with with facts and present an argument that is reasonable and makes sense, and also perhaps come up with a solution. And that's one of the things that Springdale Park, that they organized, they really, they signed up to speak at the board meeting. It was very public, and it was one after the other, after the other, after the other. And they put out some documentation. It's about organizing. So individual parents can do that, but if there's a person that would be a spearhead for what it is that the group wants, to be able to articulate it. Because, I think that it's better to do that than for the superintendent or the board members to get 17 of the same exact email, or 57 of the same exact email. I think it's just more powerful when it comes as a presented body, and these are our points. These are the salient points. And so if you look at any of the things that the Springdale Park families talked about, they talked about the positives for it. The structure's already in place. They're already K is already off campus, and they already have a program administrator. And so it wouldn't be changing the structure, it would just be changing where the building is. They already have a beloved principal, the cost effect, what would make it more cost effective to have a K-5. When the K-5 opens, the K-5 will be bigger than Springdale Park and Mary Lynn, right? Is that a good thing? So, kind of just getting your points together and sharing them in one presentation, and then being very vocal. I can tell you there's been several parent engagement meetings, and the Mary Lynn presence has been very small. And in fact, it's been called out as to, well, I guess the Mary Lynn parents are fine with what's happening because they're not here. So those would be my suggestions. I don't know if that answers your question.
It helps fill in the gaps. We've actually been in touch with some of the Spark parents. We've also been in touch with Katie Howard, our board rep. She told us the dual campus is off the table. So it's really hard. She's like, we are voting on K-5. So that just for us complicates how we go to them without having an argument really imbued with. And now there are many other things that I'm concerned about that I think we can reflect and have talking points for. So we'll focus on that. But I really appreciate your perspective.
Yes, no problem. Again, it's just about what the channel is and the clear message, what it is I do want. Because when you present what it is that you don't want without a solution, it's like, okay, well, what do you want me to do? Yep. If you can say, I don't think this is the best way to go, but here's a great way to go.
And I would say, from just an observer for the long term, I think Morningside and Spark have shown with this administration that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, or whatever the phrase is. I hate, it's just the truth that they will turn a decision if they're getting a ton of feedback against it. So I would just say louder and more organized the argument, the better.
Thank you so much.
And let me tell you what I always say too, is that we want our students to be model rockets, and we have to model that behavior for them. So when making the argument in the presentation, just make it something that you would be proud of your kids saying.
Of course, and that's partly why we haven't been loud, and
we
have to find a new way to do it that gets attention, but that's respectful.
I agree, Emily. Allison, did you have something?
This is Allison. Yeah, I was just, you just said essentially what the first thing I was going to say, which is I think culturally our community just is a little more maybe go with the flow, you know, a little more sort of we'll maybe also think about harnessing that a little bit, because I will say that as a Candler Park parent, you know, I do feel like a lot of sort of the more immediate stepping up and mobilizing and, you know, getting groups together to talk have been more limited to Inman Park families, whereas the impact is going to be with, you know, the Candler Park and the Lake Claire families, you know, who our kids aren't leaving the school, but the impact of the school is going to be to everybody. So, you know, I don't know if there's a good way to just try to make sure that the quick mobilization includes everybody. I think it will be more powerful, and I think it, you know, has the greatest potential to be heard.
Is that my phone? Okay. Allison, you're really breaking up. Okay, I think she may be gone.
Yeah.
So, Diane, did you have anything to add? I know that people probably don't call on you the same way that I do in their meetings, but I know that you sit from a different view and you get to see and hear things that we may not be privy to. And so since you're here, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. But for those of you that don't know me, my name's Diane Jacoby and I'm the school governance liaison. And I'm one of the couple people in the central office that help support all the Go teams. And I have to admit that because of elections, that I have been buried in Go team elections and the support of that. So I have not been paying attention to much of anything else lately. So we have, right now we actually have a runoff at Springdale Park. So.
Oh, a runoff for the Go
Yes.
team. That's something serious right there.
So yeah, that's where unfortunately my focus has been. I know.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just like to use the knowledge that's in the room.
No, I know.
You know?
I know that there are going to be some focus groups, and I think there was a sign up for that, but I don't know how that was communicated.
So Michelle, now who did you say said that the dual campus is off the table?
In her coffee talk on Friday morning, Katie Howard, our board rep, said that that is not on the table any longer. And I think there were about 20, 25 people, mostly Maryland parents in that conversation. So we just—
And what was the reaction?
Confused. You know, like I think that parent group has done a really great job sort of describing a lot of facts and data and like students impacted and how their proposed solution alleviates a lot of those pain points. And so, you know, as you described, it's good to come to the table with the solution. I think they've done that, and to basically hear that that's not going to be up for consideration any longer was a little deflating, because it sort of feels like as a parent, well, hey, we're trying to help. Like, we want to have a long-term solution that's as least disruptive as possible to our kids over the long term, and sort of feels like it's fallen on deaf ears. But I think there are a number of other points that we can put together that are super salient, super relevant. Like, I'm worried about academic impact. I don't think the superintendent has described how they're going to support a school, you know, that's half size academically. I'm worried about teacher loss, teacher replacement. I'm worried about art services and gifted services and all of those things. And so I think that we still have opportunities to sort of build those talking points that I feel very deeply. But the Dual Spark campus, I think they've done lovely work. And so it felt like that they were just pushing it off the table. So.
Okay. I had not heard that, but I'm, you know, I will inquire.
I'm just going to layer into, hi, I'm Melissa Pinkston. I have a kindergartner and I'm friends with Michelle, and Michelle has been organizing a lot of the Mary Lynn camaraderie around kind of this decision. And To be honest, I think this has been hard for us because we were blindsided by the decision. It came down really quickly, and then we tried to get all of our feedback via the survey. It was just trying to get as many people as any Mary Lynn parents as we can to fill this out. And when we shared the data with Katie, it seemed like, as Michelle said, it fell on deaf ears. But ultimately, we want to align with Spark, the dual campus enrollment scenario, because it is best for the Midtown cluster. And we do feel like this doesn't really solve the capacity issues at the Midtown High, which is why we're kind of in this situation. I know that there is capacity issues at, two of the schools you mentioned, elementary schools you mentioned, but ultimately we're worried about long-term if the map is redrawn and Mary Lynn is pushed out of the cluster. That is a concern of ours. And honestly, I just don't think that many of the Mary Lynn students, the community is read into what this potentially means long-term. APS hasn't done a really good job of explaining what this means. And you really have to be leaned in and engaged, reading all the PTA emails, reading all of the alerts to be really leaned in from a long-term perspective. And I think that's where the concern is coming from. So I just wanted to share my perspective, and we respect and appreciate everything that y'all are doing. And, we want to handle this in a very respectful, like you said.
So the Go team, we don't have a say, it's not, we also made our opinion known. We were asked for our opinion, and we shared 100% of the Go team prefers to keep Inman Park at Mary Lynn. So that's not, it's, so I just want to be clear that it's not, we don't vote or have a say, nor does, anybody can make the statement. IPNA made the statement, Spark made, that group of parents made the statement. I think that if the Mary Lynn, what the Go team said was that, in a nutshell, it can be a K-5, it can be a dual campus, whatever it is, don't include us. We're not involved. We're fine just the way we are, right? So now, what I'm hearing you say is that the particular cluster of parents feels like we want the K-5, the dual campus. So that's something that you may want to just join with Spark and say, you know what, we think that the dual campus is the best thing to do, and we support those reasons why. And that may be a quicker and easier way to get the message across instead of trying to come up with your own, because this is already an established or an entity that is, I don't know where they are as a group in their conversation, or if any of them were listening to Katie, because she's not their person. So I don't know. But my, again, my recommendation, if you want to align with Springdale Park, it would certainly be a way to very quickly and vocally share your opinion that this now, it's not just Spark families that feel this way, it's also Mary Lynn parents that feel this way. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, that aligns well with what we're thinking about, because it seems like it impacts the greater good and also solves the Mary Lynn issue than just saying like we don't want Mary Lynn involved. It's like, but we also have a solution for the rest of the cluster. So thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so, like I don't know, like how the Spark organized it, like is there a certain number of parents that have signed up, that are a part of it, have said, this is how we feel. I only can tell you what's happening at Mary Lynn, and so far at Mary Lynn, IPNA has made a statement, the Go team has made a statement, and now the PTA has shared the results of a survey, but has, there has not been an official statement made by the PTA. So you also may want to begin with that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyone else for the public comment? Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I will just need a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Oh, wait a minute. Before we adjourn, we do need to talk about when our next meeting is going to be? Is that right, Diane? I mean, so at our next meeting, we're obviously not going to meet again over the summer. And before we go, I want to say a very special thank you to those of you who are rolling off the board. I know that are we losing you, Ms. DeRico?
Yes, you are losing me.
And we're losing Coleman Eaton. We're losing Ellie Bookman, who I just totally don't want to leave. And let me see who else. We're losing Emily Coatzon. And then we, like I said, we have new board members that will be joining and we'll be welcoming them. We will take the summer off, and I do believe our first meeting will be in August. Did we have a timeline or anything like that? Mr. Jacoby?
So the first meeting, we ask that usually it's done by like the week after Labor Day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, so that we have a long time because we don't start school. We start school on August 1st.
You start school on August 1st. There are a couple teams in the district because you can meet with your new team at any time after July 1st. So we do have some teams, excuse me for one moment. We do have some teams who sometimes get together in July before school starts to knock out that first business meeting. So that at their next meeting, they can just dive into the data because, it's the same cycle where you have to elect officers, set norms, set public comment, set your meeting calendar, all of that. But that is up to you and your team. One advantage to meeting before school starts is that you are not bound by the instructional hours rule. You still have to have an open meeting so that the public can observe. But you can have it at any time of day because during the school year you can't have it during instructional hours. So I do know from experience when I was on a governance team in Fulton County, we often did our first meeting during a teacher workday that week before school because the teachers were already coming into school, and it ended up being convenient to knock it out. But again, it's up to your team.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. So that being said, I just wanted to make sure that I said a very special thank you, and I just really appreciate all of the work and hours of time that you put in to all of our members who are rolling off. And Ellie, don't try to hide yet because we might sneak away for you to get back on there.
Thank you. It's been a great experience. Appreciate the chance.
Okay.
So thank you very much. It has been really a learning experience for me as well.
Good. Okay, so now, as you were saying,
I need a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I need a second. Nobody wants a second?
I'll second.
Ellie Goodwin seconds.
All right, the meeting is adjourned.
Good night. Thank you,
Good
everybody.
night. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great summer.
Thanks.
See? Oh, she already hung up. Oops. We'll catch her next time.